Keeping your business ahead in this competitive, chaotic and complex business world is all about the 3 Ps: preparation, preparation and preparation. And preparing you today for tomorrow's challenges is our aim and our goal here in BISNOMICS. I'm Ranasinghe and welcome to your weekend's most profitable 60 minutes. This is BISNOMICS. Sun Tzu, the famous military strategist that laid out the plans for the art of war, clearly mentioned the importance of preparation, of proper plans before going into battle. No wonder that 3,000 plus battles and he was still undefeated. Today, the art of strategy is crucial for any business. Art of strategy. What exactly is this strategy? Are we getting the strategy right? We hear that term echoing and doing the rounds in the business boardroom. But are the business leaders getting it right? And today, to discuss this matter, we have a veteran in the field of strategy joining us. His career is indeed a kaleidoscope of multiple stints across different organizations spanning many markets, who is none other than Mr. Asanga Ranasinghe. Asanga, absolute pleasure to have you on the show. Welcome to BISNOMICS.
Thank you very much, Tarindu, for having me here.
Asanga, now I'm going to get to the point. Now, as someone who has worked with you closely, I'm also fully aware how much of an expert you are on strategy. And it's crazy to see the amount of people who get what this strategy is actually wrong. They are calling plans as strategy, they are calling tactics as strategy. Sometimes even ad campaigns are called as strategy. I'm sure you have seen this happening across many organizations. But let's just lay out the fundamentals here. What exactly is a strategy for business? And most importantly, what is not a strategy? Let's start with that.
That's an absolutely fantastic question you asked, because this is where we get it wrong. Most of the time, people say when you want to improve something, let's have a strategy. But strategy is not that. Though it is colloquially used everywhere and very loosely used everywhere.
Becoming a very hackneyed term, isn't it, today?
Everybody is using it everywhere. But strategy is not about making improvements. Of course, you have to make improvements, right? What you did yesterday is not good enough for today. And if you expect different results by doing what you did yesterday, they say you're insane. So strategy is not about making improvements. So there's no quarrel, no argument, you have to make improvements. That is what people are paid for, and that's what we live for. What you did yesterday, you need to make an improvement tomorrow.
Strategy is the organization in a better place than what it was when we joined.
Absolutely.
But that is not strategy.
That is not strategy. That is what you're expected to do. Strategy is about doing something different. They say in strategy, either you do different things or you do things differently.
Very interesting.
So, lots of the time, people don't understand this. It's about, if you're in business, it's about holding a unique position. If you're in education, it's about being different. So, strategy is about a unique position in the minds of the consumer. How do you get there? And it's about what you do to get there so that your competitors are not able to catch up very fast. Otherwise, if you make improvements, tomorrow you are better. Maybe day after tomorrow, you're still better. But in a few days' time, the competition has caught up. Then you're like everyone else. But when you hold a unique position where your competitors either can't do or they don't want to do, then you can hold your competitive advantage for a long period of time. Tarindu, I want to tell you another thing. In strategy, it's about what you do. Equally important is what you don't do. Most of the time, we in business, we think that if someone else can do it, why don't we do it, or why can't we do it?
Yeah.
But it's about trade-offs. You can do everything, but you can't do everything the way others do it. You can do something very differently to the way others do. So strategy is about understanding that.
What are you good at?
What are you good at and what are you not so good at? When you make that difference and when you make that trade-off, then you're absolutely in a fantastic position. That is what strategy is all about.
Very insightful indeed. And as you very correctly said, I remember this example, a case study where a global beverage giant ended up buying over healthy food companies that were into more like various healthier options. But after 2 years or so, they had to give it up because they realized you can't be running a health food company like how you run a beverage company. It's absolutely not possible.
There are many examples like that. Many, even big companies have made, I don't want to mention names, many companies have made that whole mistake of going into things what others have got in and others have been successful. Why don't we also go?
We call this nowadays as the FOMO economy, fear of missing out economy.
Fear of missing out. So we don't want to miss out, so we also play there.
Correct. Let's be in it, at least as a me too.
And then you lose a lot of money. And not only that, not only you lose money, you lose focus on what you're good at.
Correct.
And that's what you should not do.
Asanga, now, if you look at the pandemic, COVID-19, up to March 2020, things were going as normal, the usual challenges, the usual problems, etc. And then came the wrecking ball, COVID-19. And we saw how organizations immediately had to go back to the drawing board. Strategies had to be rethought from marketing to finance to etc. But from your own experience, the way you see things, how has COVID-19, this wrecking ball that came banging, crashing through all the walls that we had built, walls of comfort that organizations have built to cushion themselves, came breaking through all that and changed everything. How has COVID-19 made organizations rethink strategy?
I think first of all, we all need to understand the fundamental effect of COVID. It has led to a livelihood crisis. Make no mistake about it. There's going to be a livelihood crisis, at least in the short term. Different countries will come out of it at different speeds, at different times. So this livelihood crisis will put pressure not only on economies, not only on countries, on businesses as well.
Correct. Even in Sri Lanka, we have about 40% of the people who are living on daily wages.
Daily wages.
So, and when there's a lockdown, different waves, different lockdowns, they lose out. And
absolutely.
Asanga, you and I both know 5,000 rupees once in a while is not enough to keep going.
Absolutely. So this livelihood crisis has to be appreciated, understood, and then has to be addressed. So in organizations also, it's the same thing. In my opinion, Tarindu, there are 4 things that an organization need to quickly change. I would like to call out these 4 things. 1, the organizations need to improve, not improve, but make a significant change in terms of their agility. Agile organizations, which are nimble, which are able to make decisions, which are able to move fast. We know how many organizations are very slow. It's like trying to get an elephant to fly. Agile organizations will survive and they will thrive. The second one is about technology. Organizations that do not embrace technology would be really left behind. It would be very sad to say that, we had that opportunity to embrace on that particular technology, we didn't. Look at where we are. That change is going to come, and that is, I think, going to be the biggest impact on business. Third is innovation. The need to innovate, it has never been as important as it is today. The need to innovate has become so important. You can't do what you have been doing all this time. When I say innovate, it's not about products. It's about the way you do business. It's about the way you think. It's about your approach to the market. Innovation is the key. Now, innovation is all about being ahead of the game. It's not about following. You being a follower and a fast follower and all that. What is the biggest problem for this? The mindset of the leadership. The mindset of the leadership and the middle managers and the people around them think, we were so successful all this time. Why do we need to change? That mindset will be very detrimental. If you are to come out of this very fast, or the call of the moment, or the need of the hour is to be open, is to have these relationships going in the organization and embrace innovation. This whole authority-based leadership is not going to change. Is not going to help you. When you embrace technology, you have to let go a lot of things. You have to do things in a different way. And the last one is about resilient and visionary leadership. If all 4 are to happen, it has to start with leadership. Leadership has to give direction. Leadership has to create that urgency in the organization. Leadership has to make sure that people are enrolled and they are influenced. It's not about command and control anymore. It's about getting everybody. Everybody will have a way of doing things. And this contribution is what is needed. So organizations need to be really, really different in their approach. Understood. And these 4 things, agility, innovation, technology, resilient, visionary leadership will make the difference.
Asanga, on a quick note, before we head for a break, I want to ask you now, since you mentioned about this being different, figuring out what you can be unique and better at, This has also led to a lot of new concepts, such as, for example, we hear about this red ocean and blue ocean strategies. And if I may ask from you, what exactly is a blue ocean and what exactly is a red ocean strategy here, Asanga?
That's also a very good question, very timely question, Tarindu. Red ocean, I mean, it's everybody talks about. Red ocean is about going into a place where there's already a lot of players.
Polluted with players.
Polluted with players. There are lots of players playing there, cutthroat competition. It's about getting market share. So you want to be better than competitors. This whole being better mindset comes from there. I also want to play there and let me get a little share here and there and so on. So that's the red ocean. There's nothing wrong in that, but it's a game everybody plays.
Yeah. Very, very high risk gamble.
High risk gamble, and everybody plays that game and so on. So blue ocean is completely looking at a different market. You create a need, you create a opportunity, and you go there. And when you go there, you make your competition irrelevant, and that is where you have a real lead. And look at a lot of these international companies that have created blue oceans.
Correct.
Be it Uber, be it Amazon and so on. It's very difficult to beat them. They have that lead for a long period of time. Now, I think in Sri Lanka we have an opportunity because we are not a big country like giants of India or China. We can look at a niche market and we can be a blue ocean, find a blue ocean there.
Correct.
And that is where we will have our success.
It's like, for example, during the pandemic time, everyone, when the pandemic came, everyone was like thinking, oh, people will not buy, they are going to be at home, they will stop buying. But some people notice, look, there will be a lot of high affluent people who can't travel, who can't import, who needs certain high quality food items. And we saw some Facebook groups selling lamb chops worth 20,000 rupees, just like that.
Absolutely.
So as you very correctly said, find your niche and that's your blue ocean.
And be very different there.
Correct.
And when you're different in a niche, you have created a blue ocean, and you will really have that success for a long period of time. You can enjoy that success. But if you play in the red ocean, what happens? I mean, you'll have to always constantly look backwards. Somebody is trying to beat you, and you have to be better. This whole better concept comes from there.
Correct. Some very interesting thoughts there, Asanga. We are going to continue this discussion. Stay tuned. We will be back after this short break. This is BISNOMICS. Welcome back to BISNOMICS, your weekend's most profitable 60 minutes. We are in conversation with a veteran in strategy and marketing who is none other than Mr. Asanga Ranasinghe. Asanga, now for any business owner, because we as a business talk show, we always like when our audience members, they watch the show and they take lessons from this back to their corporate world, because we, as a show, our intention, our mission is to make sure that the business community of this country gets the insights required to improve their business and grow our economy. From your perspective, what is a blueprint that a business owner who is watching this show today, or a young entrepreneur who is watching this show, can start following, a blueprint that they can follow so that they will be able to improve the strategy of their organization?
I think, Tarindu, the first thing is, if you're starting a business, stop looking at only Sri Lanka. Look at the whole world. Why do you want to limit your thinking to only Sri Lanka? We must look at the whole world and say, this is the canvas that we are playing. In this canvas, what is that unique position that I'm going to create? That unique position that I'm going to exploit.
In the words of Shakespeare, the world is your stage.
World is your stage. If your world is your market or the strategic canvas, then you develop a strategy thinking that the market is the entire, because the world is connected today. You may start in your own country, you may start in Sri Lanka, but then later find out, once you have developed well in Sri Lanka, oh, I must go there, I must go here. Look at the whole world, look at the canvas, and then ask yourself, what business are you in? What business should I be in later? You may not want to go there today, but today you have a plan that is where you will go. Please don't have an inward-looking outlook to your business. Look at your business as a customer satisfying process. Why are we in business? Because people buy our products. People want our services. So you need to look at their needs. And once you are clear on this, then you develop a position for you. As you said, lamb chops, 20,000 bucks. That's a position that I want to occupy. That's a position that I want to hold. And based on that, you prioritize your objectives. You must have objectives. You must have big dreams for you. You may not achieve them. Dreams, when you wake up, you never achieve. But you must have those. When you have those, you work towards that. And then last is about developing a strategy. Look at multinationals. They all have great strategies. What do? They get everybody, they develop strategies, and then they put the strategy into action, they monitor it, and they revise and review the strategy almost every year, every quarter, every month. So what do? We develop a strategy, or sometimes we don't. Even if we develop a strategy, we develop a book report. We keep it in the chairman's room. We don't share it with our employees. We say private and confidential. Gone are the days where the strategy is confidential. Strategy has to be shared. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, your competitors will get to know. They will anyway get to know, because when you put it to action, they will know what you're doing. What is important is to get the strategy understood by the people so that they are enrolled. They work with passion. They have meaning to what they do. And people who watch this program, what I want you to do is to think about what is that unique position that you want to occupy. And for that, have a plan, have an objective, have a strategy, and then monitor it. Every day you must review your strategy. If there is a need, doesn't matter.
So every day review how you are being different in what you do.
What you do.
But there might be others who are catching up. There
That's
might be others who are now trying to use your playbook.
Absolutely. And then you revise it very fast.
Correct.
That's what you need to do every day.
Even if you're a big company, you have to do
Doesn't
that.
matter.
And in other words, Asanga, you are saying elephants need to be ready to dance.
Absolutely. Absolutely. If the elephants have to dance, they have to dance. Otherwise, you can't survive. So, strategy is all about being nimble, knowing what you want to do, and then doing it. Most of the time you have it, but you don't do it. And when you do it, you may have to change. And you make that change readily, without any reluctance. That is what I want people to think about.
Some fine thoughts there, Asanga. Now, we also hear about strategy at different levels in the organization. I believe, as some of the famous authors like Michael Porter put it, you have the corporate strategy, then you have the different department level strategies for HR strategy, marketing strategies. Asanga, if you can just demystify this for us and tell us, how do all these connect?
First of all, we must understand that we are in business. In business, you are trying to satisfy a need or a set of needs of your target audience. Whether you are in HR, whether you are in finance, whether you are in marketing, we must all understand that. We must all work towards the market objectives, not these boardroom battles within functions, working in silos, working in compartments. They're not going to take you anywhere. The organization has to win. The organization has to win in the marketplace against all odds. There's no point winning battles inside the company. So once you have that,
In other words, keep the ego battles aside.
keep the ego battles, you need to win the battle out there in the marketplace. Now once you have that, you have what is called a corporate strategy. Corporate strategies are just the amalgamation of all different strategies, brand strategies, marketing strategies, sales strategies, your support function strategies like your HR, like your finance, like your IT, they all have to come together. So in theory, we talk about three levels. You have a corporate level, then you have a business level, and then you have a team or a functional strategy. All these have to encompass, come together for the organization to achieve its corporate objectives. The objectives are about winning in the marketplace. It's about long-term sustenance, and it's about long-term success. And that is what a great strategy will help a company to do.
And so how does the connection happen? So you have your marketing strategy and all that. And then you have the corporate strategy. So how is it the marketing strategy needs to support the corporate strategy?
So the corporate strategy is just the amalgamation of all the strategies coming together. Marketing strategy is specifically for your brands. Then for your brands to win in the marketplace, marketing cannot do it alone. You need your supply chain, you need your finance, you need your infrastructure, you need your HR, you need your people, capability, core competencies, all that coming together. So marketing strategy will sort of focus on the go-to-market aspect. But for it to happen, for a company to enable that, you need people. You need and having the wrong people is not going to help. You have to have the competence to do that. So when all this comes together, you have a strategy, and a strategy will of course have objectives. The objectives are, Tarindu, could be financial objectives. You will have strategic objectives, and a strategy normally must look at not a short-term tactics kind of a strategy. It's a little longer term. In today's very uncertain market situation, it's difficult to have a 5-year strategy, 10-year strategy. I have, in my experience, I think a strategy for 3 years, which is reviewed every year, every quarter, is good for a organization to win in the marketplace.
Now, we also talk about these two famous strategies of cost leadership versus differentiation. Now, this is a very growing battle. We see some companies are saying, let's differentiate and let's get more margins there. Some companies are saying, no, let's try to be the lowest cost provider. Asanga, no matter what approach you are taking, you'll have challenges. What is your advice to companies, let's say the cost leaders and the differentiators?
I find cost leadership is a little difficult for companies like companies in Sri Lanka, because we are a small country. We don't have the kind of economies of scale to sustain and to compete with. Now we're talking about the global market now. To compete in countries like India, China, and so on.
And today we see China finding it difficult to compete in cost with Vietnam.
Absolutely. So cost leadership is though it is a strategy that is followed by many.
Yes.
For Sri Lankan companies, I am not sure whether that is the right strategy. The best strategy for Sri Lanka, for Sri Lankan brands, from a global perspective, is to look at differentiation and to be focused. You spoke about the two strategies. There's actually the third, which is about the focus strategy. Focus strategy is about
what the Ferraris and all practice.
Absolutely. Being really looking at a niche and trying to be very different to that. And thereby you create a differentiated advantage which you can sustain over a long period of time.
Asanga, now this concept of strategy is something not only that applies to companies, but we also see countries practicing strategy. For example, we see countries like Singapore that had a proper long-term strategy for their economy, and today we see where Singapore is. It's hard to believe that at one point Singapore was having a plan built based on Sri Lanka.
Yeah.
And today the difference seem to be like a chalk and cheese scenario. Now, when a country is setting a strategy, what do they need to start looking at?
So if you're asking, I love to talk about the need for a strategy or an economic strategy, a political strategy for Sri Lanka.
Because even when it comes to sectors like, for example, tourism, we see countries like Malaysia, how they followed a proper strategy on that front. And we as a country, what have we been doing? What has been our strategy? It's a question. Because we've been changing the tagline. I think at one point we were thinking different taglines were strategies. And then we've been changing that. Whereas if you take countries like, for example, Thailand, Singapore, their communication, hey, this is our country, this is our tourism strategy, it's been very clear cut. So I personally think there is a lack of connection in the strategy that we have been following.
Taridu, I think to start off, the country needs a very sound, robust, consistent economic strategy. First of all, we must all understand that the country is going through a very difficult financial crisis. I don't know, even during the war, whether we had this kind of a financial crisis. Now, you can't blame a government or politicians, and you can blame them.
Yes.
But whether that will
help
do any
cause.
good, it might not help the cause.
But I also want to just ask from you, Asanga, maybe you don't have to answer this, but clearly some of the statements by some of these politicians are showing that they are not understanding the gravity of the situation. You and I understand that.
Absolutely. So we all, first of all, that's the biggest thing. Irrespective of the party politics,
Correct.
Irrespective of your interests, I think we all must understand as Sri Lankans that we are going through a very difficult financial crisis. We have the brains, we have the know-how to get out of it. What is it that is lacking is exactly what you said. We don't have a strategy to get out of it. Now, you get the best economists, we have all of them. You get the best economists and you can develop a strategy.
3 of the top 10 scientists in the world are from Sri Lanka.
So it's just sometimes when you watch BBC and CNN and all that, you're very proud to see Sri Lankans talking about world issues, world problems, and leading those issues. So Sri Lanka needs what I call a publicly backed strategy, where everybody understands the gravity, everybody is willing to go through the short-term pain for the long-term gain. Now, what is this long-term gain? You need to explain it to people. Then when it is explained in a manner everybody understands, when the strategy is consistent, when the strategy is not politicized, then we will have to give the country time, 3 years, 5 years, like what Singapore did, and then we don't change it, we don't change the goalpost. You can have political parties coming into power, you can have various governments formed by various political parties, they will make changes, they will tweak, but there's no political interest. It has to be a consistent strategy that is implemented for the greater good of the country.
Correct. Like, for example, the Mahaveera Project, I mean, successive political parties carried out, and unfortunately, Asanga, some people say that after the Mahaveera Project was the last time where we had a situation, as you said, the goalpost didn't change and everyone was going towards the same goal.
Absolutely. So that's a great example. Lots of governments came, lots of government went away, but the project continued.
The goalpost was fixed, the strategy was
and
there.
Imagine a situation if we didn't have the Mahaveera Project. What would happen to the country, the farmers, the agriculture, and so on. So I think this is the time, if we miss this, I don't know whether there'll be another time in our generation. This is the time for the leadership, the political leadership to come together, get the best in the country, in the world, and put up a team and develop an economic strategy. Once an economic strategy is in place, all the other things that you asked about, a tourism strategy, tea strategy, export strategy, all those can be developed. What is required is an economic strategy which is publicly backed.
Correct.
Then people will understand. They will then work towards that. Like what Singapore did, and within one generation, it came from a third world country to a first world country.
First world oasis, as Lee Kuan Yew called it.
Why can't we? We can. We have everything. Just that we need the will. If you have the will, we'll find a way.
Asanga, also I want to ask from you with regard to sustainability. It's a growing topic today, and we see companies also having sustainability strategies, and I know that some of the multinationals that you've been a part of, they have had sustainability at the core of their business. Where do you see sustainability strategy playing a role in the organizations today?
So sustainability is also a word that is misunderstood. People think sustainability is about CSR. Every month you make a donation, you go and repair a library, you go and paint a school, and they say, oh, that is sustainability. Sustainability is not that. Sustainability is business. You're in business, you're in sustainability. And sustainability is about doing good for the society that you live, doing good for the environment that we are all there. So it's not about your consumer. It's not about doing good for your consumer and creating value to your consumer and capturing value inside the organization. It's about going beyond the consumer. So if you bring that to the heart of the organization, everything that you do, you will think in a sustainable manner. So I'm privileged to have worked in Unilever for a long period of time. Unilever has sustainability at the heart of the business, heart of doing business. It's not by the way you put some money into some project and so on. So it's business,
yes.
And therefore there's no way that you can do business without having your sustainability objectives.
Correct.
And therefore there are no two things.
For sure.
It's the only thing.
We are going to come back to you on more information on some of the aspects of sustainability and strategy for small and medium enterprises, Asanga. Stay tuned. We will be back after this short break. This is BISNOMICS. Welcome back to BISNOMICS, your weekend's most profitable 60 minutes. We are in conversation with Asanga Ranasinghe regarding setting strategy, the right way to do it, and the pitfalls to avoid. Asanga, now let's talk about small to medium enterprises. Even for a small business, let's say a clothing shop or let's say a small service company, is strategy something that is relevant because they don't have money to be spending on all these corporate reports, market intel reports. They don't have time for that. They don't have the money for that. Sometimes it's the owner and the family, or the owner and the wife or the husband, and they are the ones who are running the business. But even when it comes to them, how can they go about and set the strategy?
I think strategy is most important for SMEs because SMEs tend to get on with things.
Hands-on and
Hands
on a day-to-day.
on a day-to-day basis, very tactical.
I believe there's a term for this by Lindblom and Quinn, muddling through.
Muddling through, because they know that they have been successful to have come to this level. So why don't we do the same thing that we did all this time and get to that level? I think SMEs need to rediscover strategy. For them, it is very important. Who says that only multinational companies, big conglomerates, they are the ones who can do strategies? Everybody can do a strategy. Everybody can have a strategy, and everybody should have a strategy. And strategy for them is about what are the things that I am going to do differently. Now, SMEs also get into this trap, Tarindu, of trying to do many things. And if you look at a lot of these SMEs, and we get a lot of them, we interact with them a lot. And the biggest downfall, if you talk to them, is that they have got into too many things too fast. And if you can really be careful in that, in terms of understanding exactly what you have been good at, and then what you can be good at, and then making that trade-off, doing things that you are very good at, and then planning it out. So, and another thing is when SMEs become from small to become a medium, you start employing other people. And the leadership that you had during the time you were doing it to the time that you have a few people now doing it.
Yeah, it's different.
It's different. You have to let go. You have to let people do things the way they want. You still have a very eagle eye on that, but you have to change your leadership. This is where strategy will come. Lots of these SMEs, especially small businesses, when they become bigger and bigger and bigger, they are not understanding this. Then the leaders try to interfere. And with that interference, you don't get the best out of people. You employ people, you want to get the best out of them. And to do that, you have to give space. For that, you need a strategy. And I think it's equally important. In short, strategy is about, as I said, creating a unique position. And a unique position is relevant to SMEs as well. It's about trade-offs. And it's about creating a fit with what you have, your strengths, your organization, the people you have, and you can generate a fit, you can capture value. If you can't, then there's no point getting into many things and burning your fingers and then losing money and losing focus. I think, so to conclude, I think SMEs are the ones I think need to have a strategy.
Asanga, now, you are undoubtedly one of the marketing gurus that we have in this country, and I know marketing is something that is very passionate and close to your heart as well. Now, and especially from your multinational experience, if you could tell us, when a business or a brand is trying to go global, how do they manage the strategy? So, managing the local strategy versus managing a global strategy. I'd like you to touch upon this, and with a special focus on the very important aspect of a marketing strategy for brands, because especially these days, companies are wondering, businesses are wondering, entrepreneurs are wondering, how can I really get more customers? How can I connect with them better? Marketing has become ever more important than in any time in the recent history.
So they say that now. Marketing has never been as important as it is today, but it has never been as difficult as it is today. So it's never been as difficult.
Is it safe to say that marketing is facing the perfect storm?
Absolutely, because the world is connected, the consumers are becoming very savvy, competition is intensifying, your media is proliferating. So it's becoming very challenging. But at the same time, you need it.
Correct.
Now, so in that context, to answer your question, should you have a local strategy? Should you have a global strategy?
Or a local strategy.
Or a local strategy? In my mind, you need to have a strategy. You may start local, going global, but you can't ignore the global market. You can't make the mistake of developing strategies for the local market which are not relevant to the global market. Even if you don't go global and you stay local, the global competition is going to come to your doorstep.
Exactly.
And you're going to feel the pinch and you're going to lose out. So you need to think global. You have no option. If you think local, your life is going to be very short-lived.
So I just want to share this example with you in this juncture. Like, for example, one of the top leading tractor brands of India, they realized that when the global competition was coming to them and they were so good at beating the global competition in India, then they thought, look, you know what, why can't we beat them around the world? And today we see that brand of tractors has become one of the biggest, it is in fact, I believe, the biggest tractor brand in the world, and they have taken over the markets in South Africa and so many other markets. So as you very correctly said, if you don't go global,
Others are going to come.
Others are going to come to your market.
Absolutely. And to be too late. There are many examples like that, Tarindu. India, the famous cheese, milk, dairy brand, you know the brand, and how that brand has gone global and taken on the multinationals. And if you look at the India,
And that's because multinationals are giving them a tough time in the Indian market.
and then they go to their market and give them a time. So that is what they do. So
you mess with me, I'll mess with you.
Absolutely. So first of all, I think a marketing strategy has to have a global mindset. What business are we in? Where are you going to play? You may have a plan for that. You may have a time plan for that. That doesn't matter, but you are open.
Yeah.
Especially when you select the brand name. Sometimes you select a very local brand name, you can't go international.
You can't even pronounce it.
You can't pronounce the brand.
Correct.
And so therefore now you start looking at the brand, you start looking at your positioning. So we should not make those mistakes. From the beginning, you must think about the canvas. The canvas is the global market. You may, depending on your investments, depending on your resources, you may have a plan. You may have a timeline for that. Positioning. Where are you going to position your brand? Are you going to position your brand as a local brand, or are you going to position your brand as a global brand operating in a niche market, or are you going to differentiate, or are you going to play the low cost, which I said is not so suitable for Sri Lankan brands? And then you need to understand the consumers. Once you understand the segment that you're going to go after, this segment may be common in most markets. They have this unique segment which they go after globally. So these are opportunities that we must look at. And finally, it's all about getting the people with the global competence. Now, that's why in MBAs and in degrees that we know we need people who have a global mindset, who has a global competence. They know what is happening in the world. There's no point only studying the concepts that are there in the book. People who understand what is happening will be able to comprehend the needs, and they will be able to then develop plans and then develop strategies for businesses to win in the marketplace.
On a final note, any advice to young managers and leaders with regard to the do's and don'ts of developing a strategy? I know we have discussed somewhat of this before, but you are somebody the youth of this country looks up to, Asanga, as a mentor, as a lecturer, as a source of guidance. Especially young leaders, who are in their mid-20s, they've been given leadership opportunities, and now all of a sudden, from following a strategy, they have to set the strategy, the do's and don'ts, the pitfalls to avoid. This is your forum to guide them.
Taridu, we say that strategy and leadership go hand in hand. You can't separate the two. If the leaders don't believe in crafting and executing strategies will not happen. So they go hand in hand. Gone are the days where the leaders come out as these greatest guys who can command, who can control. Those days are gone.
Like the gods.
The gods who know
everything.
They know everything. They have the answers to everything.
And their word cannot be questioned.
Their word cannot be questioned. If you question, you won't be there again. You follow my way or highway. Those days are gone. People are not willing to be led by those kind of leaders. What is required today is to influence, inspire, and get people to enroll with you. Once you do that, you get you will not have answers to all the problems in the world, but your people might have. Together you will find answers. Now, if you have that mindset, the young leaders who have come through, and then Sri Lanka has some brilliant young leaders in business. If these guys believe that the new way of leading is not the old way, the new way of leading is all about having the confidence, having the courage to enroll people and develop strategies so that you know what you are trying to achieve. People will love to be led by those kind of leaders. Otherwise, why should they be led by you? So this is where I think the difference will come. So strategy is all about leadership, believing it, leadership giving the right direction, and then letting people develop plans. People who are closest to action will have better answers, will know better ways of doing things. And if you bring everybody together, none of us is better than all of us, no, Tharendra? Then we'll develop something. Finally, the organization will win. Great leaders say when something doesn't go well, the leader will take responsibility. When things go really well, the leader will say, it's all my team. I had very little to do with it. We need those kind of leaders. For that, you need courage. And that is what I think we need to inculcate in our new leadership.
Do you see the tough economic situation moving away with time, or is the pain here for a longer time?
Very difficult question. I think it should move away. We have everything that is required.
The resources, the people.
The resources, the thinking, the leadership, everything we have. We just have to put it together and be coherent and be very genuine.
And persistent in that pursuit.
And you persist. They say if you set a high standard, and if you persist and if you constantly persist and you measure it, you will achieve it. And that is what Sri Lanka needs.
Asanga Ranasinghe, thank you so much for joining us today, sharing your valuable thoughts on strategy, how a business can move forward. I believe the insights from your experience, like I said, your career is a kaleidoscope of experience across a plethora of different countries, different companies, and it was indeed a colorful set of insights that you shared with us. Thank you for joining us and wish you good luck with all your future endeavors.
Thank you very much for having me. Thank you very much.
And with that, we wrap up today's episode of BISNOMICS. No matter what business you may be in, get your strategy right. Persist with it, because the role of a leader, the duty of a leader, is to make sure that the company will persist and thrive, not just survive, but thrive despite the tough times. I'm Tharendra Amarasekara, and I will see you in the next episode. No matter what business you may be in, have a profitable week ahead.